say. If my words come out extra fast today, it's because of sugar and ice. You can blame the coffee place. That's the coffee truck. Their coffees are so good and so strong. So just forgive me automatically, okay? Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Katherine, and this is Maryanne. We are Wild Pine Equine Wellness and Sanctuary, and we are a 501c3 registered nonprofit. We work to empower survivors of trauma and domestic violence through nature and horses. So, really grateful to be here today. I'm a somatic therapist. I offer different somatic modalities. I'm a licensed massage therapist, an energy worker, and yoga teacher, and I incorporate all of those things into the ways that we can offer support and healing to our community. And I work directly with Maryanne, who gets to do a lot of the other cool stuff.
Yeah, like Katherine said, I'm Maryanne Fisco, and I am a licensed professional counselor. I am kind of like weird and a little awkward because I don't actually have like an office like space with like doors and stuff. You'll either find me with clients in nature or out on the pasture with the horses, and I think that like those two components are huge in terms of like the healing that is offered with our clients. And so I'll get into more of like what I do, but I'm happy to be here and we're excited to get into this.
Yeah, honestly, when we were asked to speak about, you know, how horses help heal people, it's like, yes, that's exactly what we do. But wait, we don't use words a lot in our work. So how do we put this into words? And so we kind of broke it down into this two-sided theory, I guess, not theory, but actual science-based research. So we're going to share two parts of kind of what we do and how we feel that horses are able to really support the work that we offer to our community. And the way that we look at it is basically like it's half science and it's half spirit or intuition. You know, the horse in general is just known for their wild spirit, right? And so being able to honor the spiritual side that they bring is a really important half. But to understand a lot of the deep understanding of what we do, there's a lot of science behind it, which is really powerful and really cool. So let's just start by talking about a little bit of the connection or the coherence between animals and people, because there's a lot, and this whole conversation is going to be a conversation just about simply connection, right? It's one that happens beyond the words, where the science meets the spirit, and where it all happens in front of a horse, which is just an extra layer of magic. So where we like to start is through working through emotional intelligence. And so emotional intelligence is a skill, much like IQ, there is EQ, right? And this is something that we all have. Humans have it and horses have it. And horses just happen to be a lot better at practicing emotional intelligence than humans most of the time. And the way that we think about emotional intelligence is a lot of times it's taught in 4 different quadrants. And so it's broken down into, there's the there's the self-awareness and self-management. And humans can be pretty good at that, right? Like we can be aware of things, right? We are aware that we can be a jerk sometimes. But then there's this other half of emotional intelligence, and that is social awareness and social management. And those pieces are like, okay, so we know these things about us. Like we might know that we're a jerk, we might know that we're anxious, but what we hi guys. But what we do about that, how we manage it, is something that horses teach us a lot about. And so we start there, you know, becoming aware of ourselves. To fill a couple of you guys in that just walked in, we are just starting to break down the understanding of how animals and how people kind of relate as far as emotional intelligence goes. And so we were just talking about the 4 quadrants of emotional intelligence. There's 4 quadrants, and so it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and social management. And what I was saying is, like, humans, we can be pretty good at being aware of things, right? Like, we observe things, we can be aware that we're a jerk sometimes, right? Or we can be aware that we carry anxiety with us or these things. But what horses have the ability to do is teach us how to manage it. Horses are prey animals, right? They're also herd animals. And so with this, they are constantly having to not only observe and be aware of their environments, but they're also having to manage it pretty immediately, right? A lot of times that management is this life or death situation. And so being able to understand where people are in that, and then using the power of the horse's emotional intelligence to kind of mirror that or kind of reflect back what the gap is a really powerful tool that we can use.
Yeah, and like because they are prey animals, like we have to try and bring our mindset and our frame of perspective into like what they're observing. And because they are prey animals, they're paying attention to every little subtlety. Like even a mosquito on their butt or a fly, right? They're going to know what that is, especially if it's a horsefly. But like when we bring these two things together as far as like the human connection with the horses, they're detecting you at all times. And so we're gonna get into the electromagnetic field here in a second, but like they are not only energetically sensing you, but they're also able to like watch you. Like if they're like eating down in the pasture, they just know they're looking at you with their good eye, right? Like they're observing what your body is doing, what like the tone of your voice is, like any sharp shifts in anything that's happening. And you know, if you're coming in and you're angry and upset, like they have mirror neurons that are going to mirror that same behavior, and there's no judgment in it. They're just mirroring you. And that's why they're so incredible when it comes to the healing process of, especially like what we do at Wild Pine Equine, is it like we're really able to bring in some victims of like major trauma to be able to like empower themselves, because with the self-management that horses have to offer humans, they're going to hold that space for you. They're going to mirror and maybe even soften themselves to a victim of trauma so that they can both come together and our client will be able to like feel empowered after that. And
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, mirror neurons are a really cool piece of what makes horses such incredible beings to use as a healing tool, because mirror neurons are something that research is actually just becoming really robust about this. They used to believe that only primates, humans, and songbirds had mirror neurons, and now we're finding that a vast amount of creatures, both like reptiles and mammals, have mirror neurons. And what mirror neurons are their brain cells. And there are these specific brain cells that fire in particular patterns that respond to both when that in particular creature is taking an action and when they're observing an action. Those brain cells are firing in a pattern for both of those circumstances. And that what they're finding about the mirror neurons is that it plays a big role in how we perceive empathy. It plays a huge part in how we perceive emotions and how we respond to emotions. And so with horses, using the mirror neurons, they have really advanced mirror neurons. Their firing capabilities are really strong, and it makes the biofeedback almost immediate. So it's like if you walk into a field, and you as horse people have probably experienced this, if you walk into the field with something on your heart, maybe you're a little angry or agitated, right? This is one that we can notice pretty big. Maybe the horse isn't gonna like buck or rear or do anything crazy, but maybe that horse's feet starts moving, and maybe they're a little antsy or a little bit more energetic. And that right there, that's real-time biofeedback, right? So it's such a powerful tool to be able to use. Really cool. So let's just move into electromagnetic fields. So we all have electromagnetic, we're all energy, right? So we all have these energy fields. And going back to emotional intelligence for a moment, one of those quadrants that I just spoke about is the social awareness. This is a real-time depiction of how we pick up our electromagnetic fields with other people. So like say that you walk into a gas station and you're just like paying for your food and you feel beams just on your neck, right? You can feel somebody staring at you. That is energy connecting. That is your body picking up on energy that is behind you. Does that make sense? And so horses have that too, but their fields are actually 5 times bigger than people's. They're huge. So like if we walk into a small little gas station and we recognize something, they walk into huge fields and recognize things from acres away, right? Again, because they're prey animals, but also because they have this extended level of sensitivity. which makes it really powerful for us to be able to work with wild bands and untouchable horses, right? Like, we don't have to touch these horses. We don't have to be in their specific little aura or field of energy that makes them very uncomfortable, right? That amount of pressure. We can stand really far out and observe and also interact with these creatures without even being close to them. It's awesome. Really, really cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's this study on Heart and Math Institute. Have any of you heard? Okay.
Heart Math Institute.
Love
Yeah,
that. Love
so
that.
good.
And if you haven't, I definitely recommend that you check it out. Heart Math Institute, they do studies based off of human and horse connection, and when it comes to like the connective piece of like where we really heal with the horses, it's this space of like heart coherence. It's this synchronistic way where like the heart rhythms of a human can match with a horse, and from there's this like very interesting like symbiotic kind of, almost like you're in a different world where you're just simply being with the horse itself. And then, again, like Katherine had said, like, you don't need to be riding the horse. You don't need to necessarily be like all up in each other's business or anything, but like the fact that you're in each other's space can just like ground someone. Like, I encourage you to go over to the Mustangs if you haven't already, and even if they're not looking at you, just like the heart forward intention of just like being in the space with that being can help lower your stress levels and be able to like get you back from your sympathetic nervous system into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is like that relaxed state.
Yeah, the heart coherence study was really cool. So the Heart Math Institute did a really cool study, basically looking at the rhythms of hearts when they are in particular spaces with another. And what we already knew was that when a person walks into a room, all heart rhythms kind of match up. Like, if you're sitting in a really calm room and then somebody really upset walks in, y'all can feel that, right? And it kind of makes everybody's blood pressure go up. Same thing that the Heart Math Institute found with horses is that they've coined it heart coherence, because it is this ability for humans to step into the horse's magnetic field and for our hearts to sync up. And what is really cool and scientific about this is that horses' heart rates are much lower than humans. Right? And what we know when we're in our sympathetic nervous system or our fight or flight response in our stressed out body system is that our heart rate increases and our breathing picks up. Right? And so to get back into that rest and digest state or that parasympathetic state, we have to slow our heart rate down and we have to slow our breathing down. Horses do that for us just when we step into their space without us really having to think about it. So it kind of bypasses this whole mind battle that we have with ourselves, right? We can sit in our heads all day and stress ourselves out, but horses have this incredible way of bringing us back into a very present moment, which is one of the, coolest things. That's what you were just explaining. Like, just go sit by a Mustang and you will be able to feel your body slow down and just kind of like suck into each other. You guys, I'm sure y'all experienced that. Totally. We knew that was gonna happen. Yeah, that's okay. They were a really good thought, and they were pretty while they last. We'll still admire what we have. And so it's really cool because when you think about it, it's like you're not just standing in a field. You're not just standing, with a horse. You are standing in an energetic field of healing, just by being in that space. It's really cool. And so they also horses operate on shared leadership. It's a really cool thing. So another way that we're able to really incorporate healing and empowerment through with the survivors that we work with is through just herd observation. There's this powerful place of just being able to observe a herd and understand that, number one, they work on all nonverbal communication. Right, so being able to understand nonverbal cues is a really cool piece of learning from the herd. But then there's this also, I can't say enough about it, the shared leadership piece, where it's like, in the moment, we're going to move feet if we need to. In the moment, we're going to, exile a naughty gelding if he's being a jerk for a little bit, right? Like, these things, this is all shared. And when you observe this ability to commingle and co-regulate in this really beautiful way that a lot of people haven't been able to see before. So that co-regulation piece is really important.
Yeah. I mean, in the line of work that like I do, so like Katherine does a lot of like the somatic and like horse specialist kind of things, and since I am like a licensed professional counselor, I am heavy on the mental health side of things and how it bridges with the horses. And so when it comes to like the herd behavior and working with victims of trauma, like it's incredibly important for them to feel empowered and not having to say anything. Like explain what they're seeing or anything in the moment, because sometimes when you're in that trauma loop, you don't have words. You can disassociate. It can be very difficult to like verbalize what's going on. And when we're in the pasture observing, our herd of 10, 11 horses, we're able to kind of help our humans, right, relearn how to mirror these respectful herd behaviors and reflect back in their own lives. And we encourage them to have journals too, to like write it down, even if they don't want to necessarily share it. And some of the examples of that are, healthy relationships, leading without the domination of relationships, as well as like being able to have effective communication without speaking, and most importantly, how we can help regulate in a group setting, whether you are able to kind of hold space for the group in general, or have this internal regulation regardless of who's around you. And when you think about like the trauma that could happen for people in general, all sorts and kinds, like that's going to be incredibly helpful, is the self-regulation piece. And if you're doing that with a ton of horses around you, I think you're set.
Yeah. There's you saying that reminds me, there's this self-defense workshop that we offer for women. And, one of the pieces is we invite a horse in to help us learn how to regulate, learn how to stay in our logical thinking brain while we are in a moment of stress or chaos. Right? That's something that's really, I think, a missed point, right? Like we can learn how to throw a punch all day, but do we know how to stay in our most brilliant self while making those decisions? That's the hard part we have to go through, right? Going back to what you were saying though, horses value congruence. Horses really want what's on the inside to match what's on the outside. And one of the best things that I think that they can teach us is like that observation of, how often do we live incongruently in our own lives? How often do our outsides not match our insides, right? A horse brings us back to that. There goes another one. They're pretty pictures. But yeah, a horse really brings us back into that truth.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
that's a really good segue into the second part. So we just did the scientific side, mental health kind of thing, and what we love about our center is that there's absolutely a spiritual side to all of this. And I think this is where we as horse people can get kind of giddy, because you can't really like explain what you feel once you have that heart connection. And so we're going to try our very best to explain how we view it. And so, horses, live in this very present kind of way. Like Katherine was saying earlier, there's no time delay when it comes to a reaction. They're prey animals. They have to go and do that. And so, being with them, we're required to be aware. Like there's no other option unless you're trying to get hurt. But when we bring clients into the pasture with those horses, these big beings are able to pull them out of their trauma loops in their head, and any future anxieties, as well as like past ruminations. And this is sort of where I bring in more of the theoretical side of the work that I do. So I do EMDR therapy, that's eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and that's specific for highlighted events, of course, trauma and whatnot. But when it comes to like these trauma loops and everything, like when you're walking with a lead with a horse, you can stimulate the bilateral action of EMDR between your left and right hemisphere to bring the emotive part of your brain and kind of sideline her for a little bit so that you can be present with the horse as well as the traumas that you're reprocessing. Does that make sense? And so that is like the first piece of like this spiritual side that we're coming into.
Yeah. Yeah, and for my piece as a somatic therapist, it brings us into back into this embodied presence, right? It brings us back into our breath. It brings us back into our posture. It brings us back into the sensations that are happening, whether we're walking and we're, tapping for that bilateral stimulation, or whether we're riding and we can feel the hooves underneath us stimulating, right? There's so many sensations that go on. If you think about, like, what does your breath do when you're in front of a horse or on a horse? What does your posture do, right? It all becomes very aware of it. There's no way to not be aware of that in some capacity, right? And so it's a beautiful way to just bring yourself back into that moment, right? And many people feel seen by horses in a way that they just can't describe, right? Like, we've all had that heart horse that's just like, wow, he just knows me. And it's kind of crazy because we've experienced that, in our own herd.
I mean, horses show up, right? Like, they're mirrors, remember? And so, like, as these messengers, they're guiding us through these transformative experiences. If you've had such a deep grief in your heart, like, go to your horse, and, like, they are so good at holding space anyways. They're like, fine, like, I'll just hang out right next to you. It's not a big deal. And it doesn't feel as if you're a burden. That's the biggest piece. You don't feel like you're a burden when you're, like, wailing yourself onto your horse and they're like, okay, I'm just going to keep eating my hay or my grain. Like,
I'll be your tissue.
Keep doing you. And the part that I love so much is that it's not judgmental. They're not like, what is wrong with you? Like, they really are just like, cool. Like, I can handle this. We're doing this. If they, if you want to hug onto your horse and just, it's incredible to watch transformation through grief, through trauma, through anything. And what we've found bringing in the somatic as well as, like, nature-based and horse aspects to our therapeutic process is that, like, we see that, like, clients are creating long-lasting change in a faster capacity when we're bringing these elements together. That's why, like, as a therapist, like, I was like, I can't just sit in this room. I literally can't. It's making me cringe. I need to be in the forest. I need to have these allies that are part of nature and with these other beings as a team to help in this healing process. Like, I'm not going to be selfish about that because it takes a village to help heal. So
I love that. Yeah. And speaking of it takes a village, and the spirit of the Mustang, there's this kind of myth of the wounded healer, where it's like, and we do this. We have this preconception that we carry as humans, where it's like, oh, that girl's a mess. I'm not taking any advice from her. She's a disaster right now. Why would I listen to her, right? And I think that we do that with animals a lot too. And I think the biggest thing, and one of the pillars that we stand on as a small business, is that just because you're broken doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of sharing the wisdom that you carry. And that the people or the broken beings that have gone through the things, they often have the biggest amount of wisdom and the biggest amount of love to pour out. And so being able to learn our herd story, learn the individual stories of these horses, and then also learn the stories of our communities and be able to put them together in this perfect parody is just enchanting, I guess.
That's what creates our entire dynamic at Wild Pine Equine. We have a herd of horses. That's why we're a sanctuary too, because it's like we bring in the horses and, like, they're meant to retire with us because we are so, like, heart connected with these horses and so invested individually with each one that when we do have a client that comes in or a group of people who come in for a workshop, we're matching each energy together so that they can have their heart coherence with the horse, right? And so, like, our tagline is rescued horses rescue people, because it's like every horse has their capacity to be able to help heal a person just as every person does. I love what Katherine was saying of, like, like, almost as though, like, the depth of pain or suffering that you experience, you also have the equal potential of that same capacity to help heal others. And so it's never, ever about being perfect. I think when we're trying to be perfect, there's so many ego things that get in the way, and all of a sudden we're being selfish, we're being isolated, and it's never about that. It's always about being able to come in with a genuine heart and like authentically who you are, and then just see what the herd does once you show up authentically, and it's a very beautiful thing to witness, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And, going back to honoring these, the stories, right? Like honoring, and first of all, that's why we couldn't name our business Rescue, and we had to name it a sanctuary because we knew that we wouldn't be able to learn these horses' stories and adopt them out. So we're like, okay, we have to have a limit. It has to be a sanctuary. They have to be here forever. Anyway, but yeah, so going back to this honoring of the story, what we know around centuries and cultures upon cultures. Horses are known for the same things, right? They're known for their spirit, right? They're known for their freedom. They're known for their healing capacities, right? But these are things that have just been the reputation of the horse forever. And so being able to honor that in a way that is symbiotic and not in a way where they have a job every single day is another piece of this whole like beautiful dynamic that we like to create. And it's something that I offer is Reiki. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's a type of energy healing that works specifically on the chakra system, which is associated with yoga and Eastern philosophy medicine. And I do this in a field of horses, and I don't halter the horses or pick specific ones to come. I just let whoever wants to work that day work, whoever's meant to work in that space. And inevitably, there's always some that want to come give their healing. But honoring those stories and just kind of letting them choose and seeing them fully for who they are, I think that that's a beautiful piece that we get to reflect back to the horses, and then the horses get to then reflect back to our people. It's really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so we are going to open things up for Q&A, but I did want to leave you guys with this quote here. So in the quiet presence of a horse, we remember who we are before the world told us who to be.
Yeah, it's really good. And I always say there's, the first, people are like, okay, well, how do I start healing with my horse? Like, what's the first step? And I think that the level of inquiry and just kind of a couple of subtle questions that you can ask yourself is a really good starting point. So there's 3 things. And so it's like, what would it feel like to live with the presence of a horse, to be able to be in that embodied presence? And then what would it feel like to live in emotional honesty? Right? The presence of a horse, the emotional honesty of a horse. And then third is, what would it feel like to live with the intuition of a horse? Right? So the presence, the emotional honesty, and the intuition. We can start thinking about that, asking those questions for ourselves, just kind of just getting in the feels. Like truly, what would it feel like if I lived in my presence every single day? I wouldn't think about tomorrow. I wouldn't ruminate on the past. Right, so how would that feel? I would be able to live in my joy more often, right? So kind of going through those questions and finding those feelings. It's a great first step. Thank you all so much.
Where are you located?
We are in Paonia, Colorado, and then we partner with a couple of different nonprofits as well. So we partner with Dare to Dream, who's out of Austin, Colorado, and Dare to Dream just started partnering with JJ and his band up in Palisade too. So they are 2150. Yeah, 2150.
21 and a half, okay.
Yep. Yeah, 2150. And they're
right behind Cowboy Church.
Right beside the Cowboy Church, if y'all know where that is.
Yep. Yeah, so we do guided rides with them. We also offer meditation rides every first Monday of each month. So those are an hour long, and that is incorporated with different breath work, obviously, there's visuals for it as well, and there's a whole sequence of different questions that are asked. Kat actually leads those meditation rides, and so you can ask her more questions about that.
I didn't know that you guys were up that way at all.
Yeah, are you up that way too?
I do have one cottage in Cedar Edge, which
there you go.
right now, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know you were there.
Nice.
No.
Yeah. So we do those meditation rides, and then we also do yoga retreats too. So we'll do.
That was a lot of fun. That's like a half day.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. half day kind of ride where you ride into the Gunnison
Nice.
River, and then you have an option of doing like a cold plunge, and then we do yoga, and then there's like refreshments and charcuterie afterwards, and then we ride back. And so it's a
Mini vacation.
it
I mean,
really
it's
is.
Girls trip.
Like it really
Exactly.
is. We've had a few girls trips like take
We've had a
take
couple
that.
private
So if you have a
groups,
group
yeah.
that you would like, and we could. Sorry, I'm speaking for you.
You're okay, go.
Like if you want to be able to like schedule your own yoga retreat, and we take requests for like things that you want and everything too, just so that we can make it as original as possible for your group. And so we've taken, veterinary groups out. We've taken women's groups, and they did a drum circle at the end of it. Like it's pretty flexible, and so we do. I love their yoga retreat. It's a lot of fun.
I brought Alex Adams over, who's one of my Mustangers, but Alex also does equine assisted therapy they're up in Lake George.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And
Oh,
so I
okay,
wanted her to connect
amazing.
up with you guys, so you guys can get talking. She
Yeah,
did
it sounds
the
like-
yoga presentation this morning.
Yeah, that's
sweet.
amazing. Yeah,
Sweet.
kindred spirits.
Yeah, and got my friend Gussie standing up on a horse.
Oh, yeah.
No way.
I had my low circus back
There you
yesterday.
go.
Roman ride.
Ready for
I
it.
had my circus
Ready
act
for it.
yesterday. That's great.
What do you have for people who can't ride, like for seniors?
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Activities do you have that could be with the horses?
Yeah, a lot of different. We've got a lot of customized workshops, kind of just depending on what you're looking for. We've got a ton of grounded. We do observation work. We do ground obstacle work. We teach emotional regulation techniques on the ground. We do energy work 101. So I teach some Reiki techniques. I teach different energetic connection points between you and the horse. That one is really cool. That one I think is probably the most powerful. It's super subtle, right? You're working in you're understanding energy fields and hand placements and different marma points of the horses, and just kind of stepping into their fields in different areas. And the subtlety is hard to put words to, right? Like but it's really powerful. And I've more times than one had people be like, I have never felt that before. That's incredible. Right, we do this class with the Cedar Edge High School. So we have a program where we bring 4 horses up, and we do an 8-week program with them, and we work with the counselors there. So they handpick the students, and it has been so powerful. This is, I think, maybe the 4th or 5th time program that we've done with them. To see these kids who sometimes they'll show up in Crocs, they've never met a horse before, they have no interest in it, and the counselors convince them to come with us. And by the 3rd week, they're showing up in boots. They have already cried some tears. They're asking if they can come volunteer at the ranch. I mean, it is
Pretty impactful.
impactful. Yeah, really cool. Is there something in particular that you've been looking for seniors?
I would just like to be with a horse and deal with past trauma.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of space that we can hold for that. We also take horses up to senior homes too. So there's 2 senior homes in Grand Junction right now that we take them up to pretty regularly. And, oh my
Which
God,
ones?
it's powerful. It's so powerful.
Was one
Solstice.
Solstice?
And then the other is, it's kind of like more of an apartment style.
The Commons?
I think it is the Commons. Yeah, it's the Commons. Yeah, we were just up there, I think, like last week or so.
I mean, I'm sure that there's a way that, like, again, like if there's like an individualized kind of thing that you want to do, we would be able to maybe like figure something out too, or
Yeah.
meet in the middle
Yeah.
of some sort, and we could definitely do like a trauma therapy based kind of. It's a holistic thing. It's like really a great package because like Kat has a lot of experience with like the somatic sides of things, and then like being able to bring in the horse and the mental health kinds of stuff too. Like it really is a holistic experience, and so we could definitely like exchange numbers and whatnot, and we could figure something out that'll work perfectly for you.
You have
Yeah.
a website?
We do have a website, and I can.
You guys have a card or anything?
Yeah, we have, so we use a digital card, and I can send it your way, and then also we have a booth over here too, that we have some information
Oh,
and
by the
stuff.
arts and crafts?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do. Okay, yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds great.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Is your website then, is it Wild Piney
Wine there?
It's Wild Pine Wellness.
Wild Pine.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, Wild Pine Wellness. Yep, and we have a Facebook too. if you guys-
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my nieces, who has autism, when she was about 12, she got to go through a whole thing with, one of the therapy places here, and it was really great for her.
Wow, that's so cool. Which one was it? Do you know?
No,
No, that's so cool.
But-
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
The
a lot of difference for her.
yeah.
in
Yeah,
a
I mean, it
number of
does.
ways.
It's incredible. I mean, if you think about it, like just the empowerment of just working with a horse. We work with Dare to Dream out in Austin, and they do a lot of physical disability riding. And think about a child who's never been out of a wheelchair, putting them on a horse,
Game over.
being able to even just talk about your change in perspective because of that moment, right? Like it is so layered and so impactful in not just the physical healing way, but like the empowerment and the strength, the inner strength that you get from being able to.
Confidence for them when they get to.
Right. Right.
And that's what we're looking for, right? Like it's either the deep inner knowing to be able to come back to yourself and like walk forward in that empowered way, or it's an action of coming back to who you once were while transforming yourself in a way where it's like we're healing the past things and we're getting that healing and we're adding it onto this version of us who's like our higher self, for example, with less and less heaviness from like the past and stuff. And so with those kids who are confined to the chair, it's like it gives them this like amazing opportunity to feel as though like nothing can stop them. Where in a world where they're just
Constantly
at this level and they're always having to look up, it's like, no, I need to get back on a horse now. Like, can I just go anywhere with a horse? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool.
anything else?
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Really
Of
appreciate
course,
it.
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much.